So here's a question. How healthy is fear? Now, I'm not talking about adrenaline. I'm not talking about the sudden surge of energy and focus that helps you outrun a bear or lift a car off a child. I'm talking about fear, anxiety, dread, pessimism. Here's another question. How often should we make decisions out of these feelings? Now, my assertion is that we should never do anything out of fear, including, drumroll please, paying our bills. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, it's easy to see paying bills as a way to keep bad things from happening. For example, I pay my mortgage so that the bank won't foreclose on my house, so my family won't be homeless. I pay my car note so the repo man won't show up and tow my car, so I can continue to have a way to get to work. This is not how wealthy people think. It's also not how successful people think. Remember, there is a difference. You can be rich and not successful. You can be successful and not rich. You can be neither. You can be both. Wealthy people do not see money as insulation. They see it as leverage. Money is not something that keeps the repo man away. It's not what keeps the foreclosure notice away. Money to a wealthy person is something to be invested and commissioned in order to make more money. And what I am submitting to you is that you can, where you are and with what little you have, begin to think and operate like a wealthy person. Now, I'm not saying don't pay your bills. I'm just saying don't do anything out of fear, including paying your bills. Now, you've probably heard the saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. So, assuming there's some level of truth in that, if you're paying bills out of fear, what else are you potentially doing out of fear? Are you going to work out of fear of being fired? Are you buying groceries out of fear of starving? Are you cutting your grass out of fear of being judged by your neighbors? And there's nothing wrong with going to work or buying groceries or keeping a tidy yard. I'm just trying to challenge your thinking. Because we need to be honest about our motivations, because motivations steer our behavior. And I think a lot of our views about money can be traced back to our views about God. We didn't learn that getting saved was to establish kingdom culture and transgenerational legacy. We learned that you get saved so you won't burn forever in hell. So the crux of our whole theology was not that Christ was attempting to get us into the black. The whole crux of our theology was that he was just trying to get us out of the red. So the grand plan was just to get us to zero. The grand plan of an all-knowing, all-powerful deity was just to fill up the life rafts and abandon the earth that he had created and had called good. It sounds like such a dud now. It sounds like such a nothing burger. But we believed it. It made sense at the time. And we didn't know any better. But now we're starting to. We're starting to know better. And we're starting to believe better. And we're starting to see better. And we're starting to be better. Over and over and over in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, this phrase keeps popping up. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, Abram. Do not be afraid, Mary. Do not be afraid, Simon. Do not be afraid, Paul. Fear not. Do not yield to fear. It doesn't say fear not unless you have a really good reason. It doesn't say fear not unless it's stage 4. It doesn't say fear not unless the account is delinquent. And why are we afraid? Because we haven't been taught who we are. Because we haven't been taught who he is. And let's bring all this back to boots on the ground, because this should always be practical. Let me ask you this. What little bit do you have? What little bit can you set aside that you can use as leverage toward growth instead of just maintenance, expansion instead of conservation. And that could be money, but it could also be time or energy or partnerships. We've played defense too long. It's time to possess. It's time to push the ball down the field. It's time to play offense. It's time to be, if you will, offensive. I'm Ryan Coleman, the real Ryan Coleman on Threads and Instagram, Ryan M. Coleman on YouTube, not Ryan Coleman on X, R. Coleman518 on TikTok. Hope you wrote all that down. I'd love to have your feedback on my latest ebook. It's called Problems to Proverbs, Ancient Wisdom for the Modern World. You can click the link in the show notes to read it absolutely free. You can also join me in school. That's SKOOL School. I go more in depth in my school community than I do here. So if this podcast helps you, if you find it valuable, and it's free, imagine how helpful and valuable my stuff is that's not free. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. I'll link that in the show notes as well so you can start to expedite that creative project you've been putting off or that business you keep thinking about starting and can't seem to pull the trigger on. And as always, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.